Balls of Fire, Chapter 4. Chapter 6, Part 4. Pardon moi. Still, what is the artifice of altruism that nurtures human nobility or hardcore suicidal behavior that drives one to death within the context of moral cultural ideas? The German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche explains it as follows in The Will to Power. The basic phenomenon countless individuals sacrificed for the sake of a few to make them possible. One must not let oneself be deceived. It is just the same with peoples and races. They constitute the body for the production of isolated, valuable individuals who carry on the great process. Nietzsche explained that biologists are prey to the basic error of using moral evaluations and considering altruism as the higher value over the will to power. Yet Nietzsche understood the will to power is connected to speciation and survival. Our way is upward from the species to the superspecies, explaining that the culture of man does not go deep, and where it does go deep, it becomes degeneration. Nietzsche evaluates the savage, or morally speaking, the evil man who returns to nature. Nietzsche's explicit view of degeneration is Christianity. I rebel against the translation of reality into a morality. Therefore, I abhor Christianity with a deadly hatred because it created sublime words and gestures to throw over a horrible reality, the cloak of justice, virtue, and divinity. On morality, Nietzsche urges philologists, historians, and philosophers to answer this question. What light does linguistics, and especially the study of etymology, throw on the history of the evolution of moral concepts? Nietzsche also suggests viewing morality related to physiology, the biological study of chemical and physical functions of living organisms and their parts, rather than to psychology. So let's continue on the track of etymology, microbiology, and physiology. Okay, now the meaning of right. First, consider the etymology of right. Relative to the secret knowledge of the Egyptian elite in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, Ma'at means truth, rightful order. And the movement to the west or land of the dead is considered right. Numerous references are made to the right arm. The Isis thesis interpretation considers the Egyptian usage of left and right as genetic directional cues for their afterlife biophysics of matter, where the direction of space becomes real by means of parity violation. In particle physics, a parity violation allows space to have preferred direction and a right or left handedness. Thus, the etymological and physiological connection relates to a spatial orientation as well as a directional genetic interpretation of the right arm of the lambda genome. This assures the right chemical path for those with knowledge. Nietzsche's hatred for Christianity relates to the placement of physiological value of right and left with a morality of right and wrong, by which the soft-core altruism of the church dominates and encourages hardcore altruism in the uninformed masses. The Christian lie is that the good behavior of an individual, such as supporting the church with donations, following the rules, and relying on faith, hope, and charity, will reward that person with an afterlife existence of an eternal life rather than hell, a possibility that looms over a Christian's conscious like a sharp guillotine or double-edged sword. Biologically speaking, conscious or not, the value of Christian morality is to direct the uninformed masses into altruistic DNA suicide. So the great process works exactly what is needed for the transformation of the few with genetic knowledge. As the ISIS thesis explains, nature's modus operandi for species survival applies to all species, including humanity, for it is those few informed individuals, such as the ancient Egyptian pharaohs and their hieratic priesthood, the early Chinese emperors and their sages, the Navajos shamans, to name a few of the elitist groups who understand the genetic meaning of their secret knowledge. The logician Charles Peirce understood the process as the crystallization of mind. Other aware historical individuals, such as the German poet Goethe and the English poet William Blake, the French dramatist Antonin Artaud, and the French writer Gerard de Nerval, the Jesuit paleontologist Teilhard de Chardin, to name a few, were empowered by their recognition of the knowledge that had been historically secreted, literalized, satanized, disguised as religion, and finally rediscovered as science today. Still, these individuals were not always free from cultural mechanisms of domination during their lives. Peirce was ostracized from intellectual society because of his impulsive temperament and other behavioral irregularities, such as his legal drug addiction. Even though the Harrison Narcotics Tax Act controlling drugs such as heroin did not take effect until December 17th, 1914, each month after Peirce died, 8 months after Peirce died. Blake was criticized for his metaphysical views and visionary experiences. Artaud, who participated in the peyote rite of the Terra Humara Indians in Old Mexico, was electroshocked for his chronic madness. The Catholic Church rewarded Teilhard de Chardin for his brilliant insights with a ministry in China. Nerval was in and out of insane asylums during his life, and before Gerard de Nerval hung himself, he placed the final pages of his greatest work, Aurelia, in his pocket. In those final pages, he wrote, "I resolved to fix my dream state and learn its secrets. Why should I not, I asked myself, at last force those mystic gates, armed with all my willpower, and dominate my sensations instead of being subject to them? It is not possible to control this fascinating dread chimera, to rule the spirits of the night which play with our reason. Sleep takes up a third of our lives. It consoles the sorrows of our days and the sorrow of their pleasures. But I have never felt any rest in sleep. For a few seconds, I am numbed. Then a new life begins, free from the conditions of time and space, and doubtless similar to that state which awaits us after death. Who knows if there is not some link between those two existences, and if it is not possible for the soul to unite with them? Perhaps madness, drug use, visionary experience, and literature are successful methods of exploring interior survival knowledge at the biological level of our DNA. With these strategies, De Nerval, Artaud, Blake, Peirce, Goethe, and De Chardin battled mediocrity, and domination. Yet, of this select group, only Goethe escaped the chains of domination during his lifetime, despite mocking scholars, criticizing conventions, attacking Catholicism, and creating his great scholar, Faust, who makes a pact with the devil but still escapes hell and is saved. God's greatest work, false, reinforces the view that faith in good works has nothing to do with human salvation. What counts is scientific knowledge. And that's it for chapter 6, spring training 6. And next time we come back, we'll be on spring training 7, a trinity of natural patterns. I'll holler at y'all later.